what's the biggest story you think of the day right now? Because there's a lot to choose from.
For me, the biggest story has been this week-long AI fiasco. And just because it asked, I mean, and just in case people weren't kind of following it as obsessively as I do, there was a case in Minneapolis, a court case about a censorship bill or a disinformation bill, depending upon where you sit on that. And the state's expert, which was a professor from Stanford, who was a disinformation and lying specialist, had chatgpt write his brief, and chat made up books, made up references, made up cases, and and this guy's got both the red ass, and they're asking to. But it's really remarkable that somebody you paid a lot of work for would be so fucking lazy, not only to send that out but not check it. And that's bad. But academia is as my sister used to like to say, the stakes are low. Then the next thing, which was Charles Pierce, who is old school kind of a liberal lion columnist who writes for Esquire, which was Esquire is kind of a zombie publication these days, but it has a legitimate name, wrote an article about basically stop talking about Hunter Biden pardon because H.W. Bush pardoned Neil Bush, which is totally made up. And again, does ChatGPT get stuff wrong? It's that how the fuck are you a political writer? Not know that off the top of your head that's wrong. But how many layers of people did it have to go through? And the lack of fact checking. And the third one, which was kind of funny, is that Anna Navarro from CNN wrote one did a ChatGPT thing about people that were pardoned. And she came up with it. Woodrow Wilson pardoned a cousin called Hunter D. Butts. And
I saw that one.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all kind of harmless. And it just kind of shows how dumb or careless maybe is a better word that these people are, but you wonder how much other, but it is fucking CNN. It is a state Supreme Court case. It is Esquire. It is legacy publishing. And you wonder how much other shit is out there that's being passed off as real, and again, so it's kind of interesting, but it kind of goes to fact checking too, that, what I think is scary is that people want to do disinformation and fact checkers, but if you're going to use ChatGPT, Jesus Christ, I mean, and there's all kinds of scandals with Wikipedia editing, but the idea that people are using Wikipedia for anything other than a quick search is scary. But this is the world we live in, and I find it discomforting.
The interesting thing is, are you familiar with Yuval Noah Harari, the author of *Sapiens*?
Yes.
I mean, I've kind of been fascinated by him and his thinking since I read *Sapiens*. He's got a new book out that's on my book list, but I've seen a bunch of interviews. He's making the rounds on podcasts, but he actually talks about this in depth about the solution to bad information is not more information. Mm-hmm. And he says that in a contest of information, it's actually bad information that rises to the top because the truth is very hard to obtain mentally. It takes more of our mental energy. So we aren't inherently seeking truth, right? And it's funny what you're saying is because there was a time that I grew up, and I assume that you went through this, but Encyclopedia Britannica was the Google of its day, and it was the place where everything seemed to be true. But I never fact checked. Like, how do you fact check Encyclopedia Britannica? And they would have to change and update things as they were like, we got that wrong, actually, right? So it's like, whatever you do, there's going to be bad information in it, and it can be very hard to find. I think what we're seeing is that we did get away from effort to find information beginning with the information age. We thought information is everywhere, so there's good information everywhere. And I actually think Yuval Noah Harari's, to his point, if it isn't hard to obtain, it likely isn't good information. Not sure what you think about that, but my favorite part of your story is that the disinformation expert became a disinformation source, but go ahead.
Yeah. And again, I think that Hari is probably right. And information is hard. We always have discussion about where do you go for for quick searches. I've stopped using Google a while
Yeah.
ago simply because the algorithm, it's bad. It's
Yeah.
bad, and it's a lot of sales shit and crap driven to
Mm.
me. I use DuckDuckGo now, but again, it's all problematic.
Have you seen their DuckDuckGo browser, by the way? Doesn't track you.
No,
A great browser. We should get them as a sponsor since I just said
yeah,
that.
yeah,
DuckDuckGo,
no,
feel free to
but
pay for an episode.
right. But the other thing that I use a lot is newspapers.com,
Mm.
which is very cheap, and it's this giant imperfect database of newspapers all around the world, or all North America, and I believe there's some foreign stuff. But what's good about it is you can actually go back and find, if not perfectly accurate information, certainly firsthand information, and it kind of
Wow.
gives you places to go to figure stuff out. And frankly,
Interesting.
writing sports articles, to go back and kind of read how something was actually covered is really helpful.
Wow, that's
And
crazy. That's cool.
yeah, but again, it's a deep dive, and it's hard to navigate a little bit. You have to work with the filters to get what you want, but
Mm.
it's really worthwhile. But again, so here's the thing: I agree with about the bad information outweighs good information, and again, I think the problem is like this Stanford. Charlie Pierce is an old man, right? And he's just grinding out shit till he has the stroke. I mean, that's just kind of what it is. And it's really not, which comes for us all, but it's tough to get too really upset about it. Anna Navarro, I don't think is. I mean, fine, she's a talking head on cable, but I think that a different disinformation expert who is testifying for a censorship bill is that cavalier and that lazy
Yeah.
is really concerning, because I don't want this fucking guy to make a
Yeah.
decision to me or for anybody, that basically is an argument. Is the glass half empty or half full? So pushing this back to campaigns and political stuff, one of the things that I do a lot of IEs, and by the way, I was doing California 13 and we lost by 187 votes, which sucks, but that's life in the big city. But when you do an IE, you have to send to stations a fact grid. These are the facts. If you were to, so there's a differentiation. If you were a candidate, you're covered under the First Amendment. So if you were the candidate, you can say, my opponent fucks goats, and it's okay, it's allowed because it's First Amendment. If you're an IE, if you're an indenture, which you can determine by the spot because it says, paid for and authorized by, Chris Matola Inc., not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee at the very end of the thing, and the
Right.
type too small to read.
And you can't coordinate with the campaign, right?
No, you can't coordinate with the campaign. That's also a big in the Pod Save America podcast, one of the consultants was saying, "Oh, our
Yeah.
lawyers need us to be coordinate more," which is fucking stupid, because if you are a good consultant, you can, Democrat or Republican, you could rendition one of us in the middle of the night, drop us into some place we've never seen before, and within 2 days we'll know how to do the campaign, how to help with the IA, because it's all fairly transparent and fairly easy. So I
Right.
mean, it's such a dumb fucking thing, but that's a different story. But going back to, where was I? Oh, so we have to send these fact check things, and sometimes for a single 30-second spot, it can run 30 pages. But like, this is the source. He voted to raise taxes 20 times. I'm making it up. And but you will have 20 legislative sites and this, that, and that, and the other thing. At the same time, you can argue, and this is what campaigns are about. Is that fair? Is that legitimate? Because he also voted to cut taxes 20 times.
Mm.
The argument comes down to, like, well, we're not about balancing this out. We're partisans, and we're making partisan arguments. And it's not
Right.
our job to be fair. It's our job to be partisan. And within the confines of free speech and the confines of, you have different opinions about what's more important, voters will figure it out. And
Mm.
they generally do. They generally do. I mean, the easiest trick in the book, and guys play it all the time, is that you vote for everything, you vote against everything in committee, and then you vote for the big bill when it all passed.
Mm.
And you can say, "Oh, I voted against that because it was terrible." Well, you voted for the fucking budget, so it doesn't matter.
Right. Right. Right.
Or you vote for it all in committee and you voted against the budget. I mean, it's you
Yeah.
know,
So the I think to put a bow on this, let me ask you, because I think there's certainly a very strong right wing argument that has taken hold about freedom of speech. Although, usually, when I hear people say it, you can tell within the first few seconds that they don't know what the fuck freedom of speech actually means. They think it means companies have to let you say whatever you want. But, let's just assume, freedom of speech. Noah Harari said in a podcast, I thought it was quite brilliant. He said, people have freedom of speech, but algorithms don't.
Ooh, that's
and
good.
that and that platforms like X should be held accountable for the algorithms that are built purposefully to push disinformation and to push, let's say, illegal speech, whatever that could be. Because there are types of illegal speech. We all know that, and it was actually a right wing argument for a long time. Hate crimes. If you kill somebody and use racial epithets in the process of doing so, there's an add on to the crime of,
Mhm.
of a racial hate crime. So, what do you think about that? I mean, to me, I thought it was very brilliant that he broke it down that way, but I'm not sure if you would agree.
I think he's half right. I think the problem is intent and motive. If you can prove that somebody is purposely pushing hate speech or disinformation of some sort, then yeah. But I think a lot of times it's what you search out and the algorithm is determining. So let me put it this way. There's Dave Weigel, who's a writer for, I think, Semaphore. He had this very funny thing that he might have deleted it. I don't know. But he said, I don't know what's wrong with my Netflix. The recommendeds are all stuff about Nazis and serial killers,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
and so what the algorithm does is it looks for what you do and who you follow and stuff you like, and it feeds you more of that.